Democrats or Republicans really the small d Democrats? Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So I read an article not too long ago that talked about how Democrats and Republicans are both very supportive of the idea of democracy, and that they're both concerned about how the other party's actions are undermining democracy. The article kind of presented things as, oh look, they have more in common than you would think. The difference is that the Democrats have concerns based upon reality, whereas Republicans have concerns based upon fantasies. The fantasy, of course, that Republicans base their concerns about democracy on are the lies that were told by Donald Trump and his cronies in support of his allegation that the election was stolen from him. I don't need to revisit the widespread evidence of the fact that there was no fraud in the last election, or if any, it was minimal, and much of it, by the way, occurred on the part of the Republicans. But here's a recent article that I'll, of course, link to down below that talks about how Trump's own research showed that voter fraud did not cost him the election. So in other words, when he was saying that the election was stolen from him, he was lying. Let's contrast that with just a few of the recent developments that would be the type of things that would give Democrats pause. For example, in Georgia, a state controlled by Republicans, protected by gerrymandering despite the fact that it's become a true purple state in recent years, their recently re-elected Governor Brian Kemp signed a bill passed by the legislature that allows the ouster of local prosecutors if the governor doesn't like what they're doing. So in other words, we're going to allow political considerations to trump legal considerations. And you might say, oh, that's just a one-off example here, but let's just keep going. In Florida, of course, we've got Ron DeSantis deploying his state police to enforce his political agenda, including something that sounds an awful lot like the Gestapo, the election enforcement police, who continue to exist despite the fact that most of the allegations that have been brought against anybody have been widely dismissed and ridiculed. Then in Texas, you've got legislation winding its way through the Republican legislature. It's already passed the House. That would give Republican officials the right to basically throw out the election results in a large Democratic county. Nothing speaks of democracy like the power to throw out election results you don't like. And for those who might say, oh, the bill allows the Secretary of State to do it, not the governor. Well, just so you know, in Texas, the governor appoints the Secretary of State. So it's one more example of politics being given the power to overturn the law. And I don't need to bring up the examples, of course, of what happened in Tennessee, in Arizona, or Montana, were thrown out of the legislature because of the fact that the Republican majority didn't like what they had to say. And of course, judges becoming more and more political all the time. In Montana, we just heard that the judge rejected the efforts of State Representative Zoe Zephyr from Montana to regain her First Amendment right to speak out on behalf of the constituents who elected her. I can't believe that anybody can look at this type of decision with a straight face. And you always can count on Donald Trump to give us another example of anti-small d Democratic behavior, where when a reporter asks him a question he doesn't like, demands that he be kicked off the campaign plane. The good news of all this, if there is any good news, is the fact that voters really don't like this. We just received more evidence of this here in my home state of Michigan, where the local clerk, the official who administers local elections, in a right-wing Republican county that voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump, well, this clerk had gone around spewing the big lie that Donald Trump actually won the election. And those Republican voters in this Republican county decided enough is enough. And they kicked out that clerk, saying they want a clerk who actually is going to abide by the facts and who is going to support real democracy. You see, the fact is that most Americans support democracy. I truly believe that. And the desperate efforts for Republicans to try to rig the game in their favor is something that grates very strongly against our sense of fairness and justice. And arguably, it played a big part in the Republican underperformance in the last midterm election. Well, if you want to see a video where I go through in detail just how ridiculous the Florida election police created by Ron DeSantis are, check out this video over here. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.